Hey fashion lovers, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be showing you how to make this stunning Ankara playsuit with princess bustier bodice, a stylish keyhole cutout and flare sleeves. This playsuit is very stylish and comfortable. If this is what you like to learn how to cut and sew, then you need to watch this video till the end. Please do well to like this video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and drop me nice comments. Let's dive into the tutorial. I'm using 3 yards of small Ankara cotton fabric for this project. If you're bigger, 3.5 yards to 4 yards of Ankara fabric should be enough. For the measurements, you'll be needing bust, waist, under bust, half length, trouser length, shoulder, back half length, bust span, bust point, and then your crouch measurement. I'm going to be drafting my bodice. I'll be drafting princess bustier, okay? I have the pattern paper on fold for the front block. From the top of my paper, I'll be marking down 1 inch, which will serve as my starting point. That is also my shoulder line. From that point, I'm going to be marking my chest line. To get your chest line measurement, divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5, okay? I will also mark down the shoulder to bust point line. Next is to mark down the shoulder to under bust line. I will also mark down the shoulder to waist line. Next is to mark down my bust span measurement divided by 2. My bust span is 7.5. If I divide by 2, I have 3.75. So I'll go ahead and mark 3.75 on the bust line, on the under bust line, as well as on the waist line. I will come to the chest line and mark my shoulder width divided by 2, as well as on the shoulder line. Then I'll go ahead and mark my basic neckline, the shoulder slope, as well as the armhole curve. I will be marking down my dart intake for the under bust tightening of the princess seam. I will come towards the middle part of the pattern paper and mark down 1 inch as my dart intake, and then I will connect to the bust point, and on the other side of the dart line I will mark down 1.5 inches as the dart intake, and I'll also connect to the bust point. From the middle point of the armhole curve, I'll draw out a straight line to meet the bust point. From that line, I'll mark down 1 inch to create a second dart line, okay? On that second dart line, I will replace that 1 inch dart intake, okay, to remark my armhole curve for the down part. If you don't understand how to draft this princess seam, tell me in the comment section and I will send you a detailed tutorial. Next is to mark down my bust circumference divided by 4, and I will replace the dart intake. I will come to the under bust line and mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. I will also replace the dart intake, as well as come to the waistline and mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Replace the dart intake and connect the point. I will also go ahead and mark my side dart. My side dart is 1 inch because my front half length is 16 while my back half length is 15. Next is to mark the V neckline for the front. I'm marking 7.5 as the depth of the V neckline. Then I'll connect to my basic neckline. You can come down more if you want your neckline to be deeper. For the back block, I'll go ahead and draft my basic back block bodice with 0.75 dart intake. Remember, if you do not know how to draft a basic bodice block, tell me in the comments and I'll send you a well-detailed tutorial. Now I'm going to be marking down the keyhole at the front bodice. I will mark down 1.5 inches from the waistline, okay, and then at that point I'll mark in 1.5. Then I'll connect to the under bust point. You can make this as wide as you want, okay, depending on how wide you want the keyhole to be. Then I'll go ahead and cut out my patterns. Remember to close up the side dart so that the front length and the back length will be equal, and also blend out the points, the bust point and the side, so that you do not have any point pointed. I will go ahead and close up the back dart because I don't want to sew my darts down, okay? If you want, you can sew your darts down. Now I have my front and back patterns ready. The next thing I'm going to do now is to place them on my fabric, add all the necessary allowances and cut. Now look at what I have after adding all the seam allowances, okay? I added ½ inch for the joining of the dart. You can notice that I cut the front block on fold, and then at the shoulder line I also added ½ inch, as well as at the neckline, okay? And for the sides I marked 1.5 side seam allowance. You can mark more if you want more allowance by the side, okay? For the back block I also added ½ inch joining seam allowance at the shoulder, the armhole and the waist area. Then for the zipper allowance, I marked down 0.75 as the zipper allowance. Then the same 1.5 side seam allowance. I also had to cut out the linen pieces that I'm going to turn the bodice. Exactly the same size with the main fabric, okay? I'm going to keep the bodice aside now so that we can cut out the pants. So make sure that your fabric is folded into two, okay? Then you place in a bias form. I would have loved to cut directly on my fabric, but due to the fact that Ankara fabric is not usually long, it's usually by 45 inches, it's not going to be enough for what I'm going to be using it for, because I'm going to be cutting my fabric in bias form. Because of that, I'm going to be cutting on a pattern paper, then I'll transfer to my fabric. All right, because I have joined my pattern paper to have something bigger than the Ankara length, okay? So I'll take the Ankara fabric aside. So what I'm going to do now is to get one part of my pattern paper and place in bias form, okay? Like so. The first step I'm going to take is to come to this part that is not unfold and mark down 4 inches, okay? So we are going to be working with a very simple calculation, okay? So I'm going to be using my crouch measurement. To get the crouch measurement, divide your hip circumference by 4 plus 1.5, okay? Or you can measure directly on the client's body, okay? Then the next step we are going to take now is to get the waist circumference, okay? And to get the waist circumference, we are not going to be dividing the waist by 4, all right? Because this is already a flay, all right? And then to get the radius of a circle, we divide the waist circumference by 6.28, okay? But this is not a full circle, this is half of a circle. So we are going to be dividing by 3.14, all right? And then my waist circumference is 28 inches. So I'm going to be adding allowance to my waist circumference, okay? My waist is 28 plus 2 inches allowance, okay? I'll now have 30 inches divided by 3.14. This is a standard to get the radius of half of a circle, okay? Then I have 9.5. So I can approximate that to 10 inches. I am marking from this point, okay? Then I'll mark down 10 inches. So if you take the circumference now, you notice that it is now more than my waist circumference, okay? I have 1 inch now. That means I have half inch here and half inch on the other side. Please add up to 4 inches to your waist circumference, okay? In order to have enough fabric to work with. So now that I have gotten my waist circumference, the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my crouch measurements, okay? I have crouch measurements of 11.5. So from this point, this is now my starting point. I'll mark down my crouch line, okay? This is my crouch line, 11.5. Then I'll draw out a straight line. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the full length of my pants. I have full length measurement of 18 inches plus my hemming allowance. So I'll go ahead and cut out the full length of my pants. So the next thing we are going to do now is to come to this point, angle 90, and draw out the angle 90, okay? Like so. I'll come to the angle 90 and mark down 0.75. And I'm going to go ahead and connect. Then I'll go ahead and cut. Now is to cut on my fabric. I'll be folding the fabric into 4 pieces so that I could cut the front and the back pant legs together. I will get the pants pattern and place on my fabric and pin it down, okay? Now is to add allowances. I will come to the crouch line and extend it by 0.75 for the back crouch curve. And I will blend that into the waist line. Remember that we are cutting both the front and the back pant legs together. Then I'll come to the side and add extra half inch, okay? You can add more allowances if you want more allowances to the pant. Then I'll also mark down my pockets. I want to be marking my pockets directly on my fabric, okay? I will mark down 7 inches as the pocket opening I will carefully curve in the pocket by 7 inches. Then the length of the pocket is 12 inches, okay? I will carefully curve in the pockets like you see me do in the video. Then I will extend my half-inch side seam allowance down to the hemline. At the waistline, I will also add half-inch joining seam allowance at the waistline. Then I will go ahead and cut out my pants like you see me do in the video. After that, what I'm going to do now is to take out 2 pieces of the pant legs. That will be the back pant legs, okay? Then I'll mark out 0.75 on the second pant leg. That will be my front pant leg. At the waist area, I will also trim off that 0.75 that I added to the back. This will make the front now different from the back. Next thing to do is to mark down half-inch joining seam allowance at the crotch area so that we can start stitching our playsuit. Watch out my next upload on the sewing part of this tutorial. Hit on the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so that once I upload the sewing part, you will be the first to know. Thanks for watching.